Hey everyone, it is Mica here, and this week I'm going to be talking about the second of the 3 healer jobs in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, the Druid. And when I roll a healer alt, which I always do, this will definitely be the healer that I choose, because out of all the healers, the Druid is just the most comfortable to me. I really like the Druid class in a lot of games. It really just appeals to my tree-hugging side, and if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you know I have huge gardens both in and outside of my house. I have plants everywhere. It's kind of nuts. But this is also going to be a long one because out of all the classes I've covered so far, I don't think there's been one with the sheer amount of skills and abilities that the Druid has, which really isn't a bad thing in my opinion. It's going to make Druid that much more fun. I love a job or a class. I know some of you hate it when I refer to them as jobs. It's just my Final Fantasy side coming through, but I like it when a class keeps me on my toes. But before we get into all that, let's just start once again with a description given to us by Visionary Realms. The wild-eyed Druid has answered a dangerous call to embrace the natural world of Terminus and peer into its mysteries. With the manifold fragments of other worlds and realms now on Terminus, the landscape is highly diverse and treacherous. For this reason, Druids are often revered as visionaries who can see beyond the fragmented terrain and into the heart of Terminus itself. At its core, the Druid is a light-armored mystic who is able to draw out the aspects of the natural world and imbue them into other living things or project them into their surroundings. But there is a fine line they must walk as they gaze ever deeper into the secrets of Terminus. The Druids who learn to master these revelations are rumored to have incredible restorative abilities, while wielding the power to command the weather itself. Surely, there is rarely a display as awe-filled as this kind of fury when kindled. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this seems like the best class description we have had yet, or at least the most intriguing if nothing else. And it makes me think that the Druid is also going to have a hell of an amazing perception system, especially for those of us who really get into the lore about the world itself. There are 6 races that could take up the garland to become a Druid. The human, of course, but there's also the Dark Mirror, the Elf, the Halfling, the Archai, and the Ogre. And since there will be, or seems there will be, a lot to juggle with the Druid, the devs were kind enough to only give us one resource to manage, that good old mana that we are so familiar with. Druids do have 2 types of armor they can wear, that is cloth and leather, and they're able to use both one- and two-handed blunt weapons, one-handed edged weapons, and shields, which are always listed as weapons for every job, and I'm not sure how much we should read into that. This also means that Druid can sword and board, so that's gonna kind of make them at least a little bit more interesting. But let's dive in with the class's passive abilities. See, I'm learning. And the first one we have is great. It's Masai's gift, Herode the White Fox. And it's so cute. I mean, look at that. Look at that little face. I like that they gave us a cute little fox, but not a cutesy little fox. None of that kawaii blah that's always gets thrown at me in Final Fantasy. Basically, what this is a fox companion. So yes, that does make Druid a pet job of sorts, and we will get into all the pet abilities later. I mean, there are a lot of them, or at least there's enough of them to give them their own little section. Frankly though, I like that they have a little fox pet. It does make the Druid feel a little bit more like Druid. My only problem with this is it's only one type of animal. I like being able to, have different types of animals instead of just having one, but I'm, whatever. I'm not a dev. Reverberation is another passive ability that makes it so whenever a party member is under the influence of a healing ability that you put on them, like a regen or something of the sort, when someone else heals them, that heal will not only heal that person, but it'll also bounce and heal another random party member. It's basically a 2-for-1 heal. Wild-Eyed Wanderer gives you a connection to all the animals that walk in the wild and make them a lot less likely to attack you unless, of course, you attack them first. Storm Warden will give you a bonus to both healing and damage when there's a storm raging in the area, and Storm Keeper is an epic passive that will allow you to maintain Storm Warden at all times, even well indoors. Finally, we have Harness Trait, a passive that allows you to harness traits of the world around you. I know, who'd have thunk? And imbue those traits not only to yourself, but to your party members as well. Think of it as like a low-key blue mage sort of thing. But exactly how you learn these traits and if they're permanent once they are learned, or if you have to like siphon them and relearn them and yada yada, we don't really know. However, I'm gonna go out on a limb and make the assumption that they are permanent. And that is the perfect transition into active abilities, as harness trait opens plenty of these up. So what traits can you imbue to yourself and your friends? Well, the first one is the Black Wolf's Swiftness, which will increase just plain old movement speed. Then we also have Oaken Regeneration, which will improve health regeneration. And I'm going to say this is your natural health regeneration, not boosting of magical regeneration, but it does also increase any cures that you get while you're under it. Then you got Panthers Claw, which is not to be confused with Panthro, which is what popped into my head at first because... Nerd! I mean, but that kind of goes without saying. I mean, look what I'm doing with my weekend. But Panthers Claw will increase your strength and armor class, while Grizzly's and Thunderpaw's Resilience will increase both your stamina and armor class. And all three of them will increase your resistance to stuns. Swiftgill's Fin will increase your swim speed and let you breathe underwater, which if you watched my races video, kind of would have solved the Dark Mirror's problems, at least partially. And finally, Veilhawk's Grace lets you jump higher and glide instead of fall, which will come in super handy when you have one of those oops moment at the top of a cliff. Now let's get into miscellaneous skills, because there are not too many of them, but at least one has the potential to give druids quite an upper hand. So the first one is going to be Mantle of Leaves, and you can use this to become nearly invisible to any non-magical creatures. Obviously, you do need to be outdoors since you cover yourself with leaves. Although if you can use this in snowy tundras and deserts and stuff, I really don't know why being indoors matters all that much. Firefly summons a Firefly to your side in case you need a weak light source. Skills like this really can make me concerned about button bloat, because when and why would you really even need this skill? So, I mean, unless it has a thing in-game, to me this just seems like a button bloat thing. Vine Woven Bridge lets you form a Vine Woven Bridge, so you can cross a gap that's too far to jump. Weave of the Wind will create a tempest in front of an ally, knocking away any physical range attacks. Basically, sucks for all rangers. Upheaval will cause the ground to shake and knock mobs back an undetermined distance. And Gust of Leaves will create a gust of wind in the face of an enemy, interrupting any spell casting. But here's the kicker, and that one is Wandering Stones. And there are stones all over Terminus that are brimming with druidic magic, and once a druid attunes to these stones, they can travel between them, which, depending on where these stones are, and if there's any other form of fast travel to these areas, that could be a really big thing. This could give druids a really, really big advantage. So yeah, this one could actually be a game changer. But now we are finally going to arrive at healing. And you know what? We are about halfway through. Like I said, Druid is a long one. It has more abilities listed than any other thing I've covered so far. So the first healing ability I'm going to cover is Verdun Fire Seed. So with this one, you plant your seed in an ally. Yes, you plant your seed in an ally. And I'm not going to make any jokes. I really, really want to, but I will refrain. I will not make any jokes. And the seed will absorb a certain amount of damage based on your level. And when the damage cap is reached, the seed will bloom, healing them for the amount of damage absorbed and redirecting a percentage of it back to you in the form of mana. You can also plant your seed in all of your allies, but only one could be active at a time. Whew, that's difficult. Please put jokes and comments about this in the comments, because it will be funny. Preserver's Wildfire will create tendrils around you that will wildly flail about and heal any ally it touches while damaging an enemy. In the beginning, there will only be 3 of these tendrils, with more appearing depending on your wisdom, your intelligence, and your constitution. Vine-Woven Grove is an interesting one, and this seems to be like a self-heal only, since the language in the description talks about the druid but doesn't say anything about allies. but it will wrap you in a cocoon of vines that absorb all damage while restoring your health. But while you are cocooned, you cannot move or do anything or it will break. So this may not be best in a party setting, but this can be really, really handy if you get into a tight spot while out and about by yourself. Then we have Verdun Fire Tree, which creates an actual tree with a healing aura that will regen your health over time, and the closer you are to the tree, the stronger the heal will be. Now, we haven't really gone over Herode, the fox's abilities yet. I'm going to be getting to those in a moment, but if her ability called Focus is active, the tree will amplify the effects of Verdun Fire Seeds and Preserver's Wildfire. Now, notice that the Druid themselves has no direct straight up heal. There's no like cure light wound sort of thing going on here. Those have all been incorporated into Herode's abilities. But before I really get into Herode and all the pet stuff, I want to finish up with what the Druids themselves can do. And all I have left is their DPS abilities. Now, as I'm sure is obvious, because Druid, a lot of their attacks, just like everything else, are based off the natural world and the elements. For instance, Call Lightning is just that. You summon down a bolt of lightning. But if there's a storm in the area, the damage potency of that lightning is going to be increased, and if the target is wet, you are guaranteed to crit. Now, I think this is just one of those little details that just adds so much. You wouldn't really think like how many games add something like that, especially when it comes to MMOs. It's just one of those little details I think is going to really, really add to the world. And it kind of makes me wonder what other little things they're going to add that they may not have told us yet. So just kind of, one of those little things that just kind of hypes a little bit. Rock Vine Tangle will wrap up your enemy in a thorn-covered vine, making them unable to move while causing damage over time. And if Herode's Focus is active, it will also give the spell the added effect of reducing their armor class. Then we have two Verdun Fire spells. Verdun Fire Vines will wrap an ally in vines and reflect any damage or magical or physical back at the attacker. Then we have Verdun Fire Spear, which is a magical fire spear that you hurl at your enemies for fire damage, and if Herode's Gaze is active, it will also silence them. But there has been so much of Herode this and so much of Herode that, I think it's time that we cover this little fox's abilities, because pet management will definitely be a big part of Druid. But it's a pet class, so there should be at least a moderate amount of pet management, at least in my opinion. Herode's Flame is your single target heal. It says it's a moderate heal, so the heal will likely not be too gigantic, but it's your only just flat heal. Unless, of course, there are heals that are not listed, which is quite possible. But Druid, especially when it comes to Herode, seems like it's more about enhancing heals and using healing over time. Using Presence, for instance, will send Herode over to an ally, and when they are healed, she will automatically cast another heal on them again. If you use her Shelter ability, she will just flat out enhance any heals cast on them. And if Verdun Fire Tree is active, you can command Herode to use Rescue, which will cause her to rush an ally to the center of the tree while entangling any enemies that were attacking them. Or you can simply use Chrysalis, which will have Herode plant a seed of her own in an ally that will prevent death by blooming into a big protective chrysalis. And when the spell expires, you emerge a big, beautiful butterfly. Just kidding. It will just prevent you from taking any further damage while it regenerates your health and mana, although that would make a great emote for them to add sometime. Visionary Realms, take that idea if you want. So the bulk of Herode's abilities are healing, but she does have one buff called Focus, which I've mentioned earlier, and all that does is amplify a few of your abilities. She also has a debuff called Gaze that reduces an enemy's resistance to fire, making them more vulnerable to your attacks. And with that, we have covered all the listed Druid abilities. Finally, there were so many of them. So what is our overall impression of the Druid? Well, it's very much a Druid. Everything is based around the natural world, but ironically, your DPS is fire and lightning based. And if you are a Druid and you are living in a forest, I think the last thing that you would choose to use to attack with is fire or lightning. It could just be me. doesn't make much sense. There's also a significant lack of buffs and debuffs, with the focus more on healing over anything else, and even those heals are more maintenance heals through healing over time and bonuses to healing rather than flat or large heals. We also have a very heavy reliance on Herode, which will seem to create a lot of pet management, turning off quite a few players who would normally really enjoy this class. So in my opinion, the Druid is going to be a very niche class. But if you enjoy a class that does have that pet management aspect, as well as being more heal centric than anything, then Druid is definitely going to be for you. I personally really like the aesthetic, and even though I may have an alt that is a Druid, it will purely be because of that aesthetic. If a cleric played this exact same way, it would never even make my list. However, if a crowd control or a DPS job had this exact same aesthetic, it would probably be at the top of my list. Even with the pet, I do enjoy me a pet class. But that is all I have for the Druid. Next time I will be covering the last of the healers, which is the Shaman, before jumping right into the DPS. Hey everybody, thank you again for joining me. So my Twitter and Instagram is linked below in case you want to follow me, along with the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen's website in case you want more information or you want to give them a pledge. And a few of you have already contacted me on Twitter and on Discord to chat, and I enjoy that. So if you see me, don't be shy, go ahead and say hi. I will say sometimes it shows me online, but I can't get back to you immediately because I'm, sometimes running dungeons or, doing something endgamey, or sometimes I'm just writing and I'm totally in focus mode, but I swear I will message you back. So don't be shy. Like I said, linked below, go ahead, follow me there. But as per the usual, it has been a hoot, and until next time, have fun.